who you've interacted with this day, this is the crowning moment. This is the crowning moment that God invites us in. And I've been with Him today, and maybe you've been with Him today, but there's something that happens when God's people come together, where 2 or 300 are gathered in His name, declaring the supremacy of our God. We create a space that God has prepared for us, and holy ground. Our feet are standing on holy ground. Folks, this is the moment when you bring your alabaster box from your day, the very best of your day. I don't know what you've given to people today. I don't know what you've done for people today, but don't let those moments outdo this moment, to where we bring our alabaster box and know that every good thing in our lives came from Him. And we just come to this moment and say, God, we give it all back to you. All we have is yours. We empty ourselves in this moment so you can fill us again. Oh, we are filled and being filled because we leak. But we're emptying ourselves in this moment and giving God a praise, giving God ourselves, so we make room for Him to do something in us tonight. How many of you have come expecting to hear something from the Lord tonight, for Him to get where you are? If you didn't, don't waste your time. Life is too busy. We've got too much to do. But I declare by God, He has a word from the youngest in this house to the oldest, and everybody in between. God's coming to speak to you tonight. He's got a word for your life. I love that our children are in here. I was holding my granddaughter moments ago, and there were some shouters. I'm telling you, some of these people that get here early and know how to tarry. Whew. I turned my granddaughter around. I was like, I don't want you to just listen. I want you to watch it. I want you to know what it looks like. This is the DNA of who you are. It is going to be so natural to you. You'll never hesitate. You'll never have reservation about giving God all the glory. I heard children, as we were quiet, I heard our children giving God glory. May it be the most natural thing we do. Can you just seal this moment with a praise? Give God the best of your day right now. Give Him glory. Oh my God, we thank you that you've come to dwell with us. You are all we need. You are all we want. You are all we crave, oh God. And you are so present in this house. Turn around and tell somebody He's here. On the way back to your seat, if you can. He's here. He's surely here. He's surely here. Oh, God is surely here. He's surely here. He's surely here. He's surely here. Our children know it better than some of us. He's surely here. Hallelujah. I thank my God for a people that come into His house on a Thursday night. That's radical to some. But next week, it's the one week out of the year we do it, guys. We can do this to where we say, God, you're going to get the best of every one of our days. We're going to be in your house on Monday night and on Tuesday night and on Wednesday night and on Thursday night and on Friday night. And then Sunday, we have dwelled with you through the week. We've got every reason to give you glory, to bring a shout and a sound that takes the rafters, that shakes the rafters and takes the roof off. I honor you for knowing how to honor Him. He knows your life is busy. He knows our lives are busy. And so He honors what we offer to Him. He knows the sacrifice it is to Him. Tonight we're talking about a day in the life. Pastor Otis asked me earlier today when we were chatting, he said, what are you talking about tonight? I said, a day in the life. He said, whose life? Is it his life? Is it your life? Is it my life? Is there any difference? Should there be any difference? We're We're talking about a day in the life. And whatever it looks like in his life should look like in our life. And whatever it's looking like in our life, it should look like in his life. I ask you, where was Jesus born? This is not a trick question. Where? Bethlehem. Hope's 42 trekked it right through Bethlehem the other day. That's not a very safe area these days. Our Jewish guide and bus driver stayed on the bus and didn't dare get off. But we went into Bethlehem. Where was Jesus raised? Was he raised in Bethlehem? No. In Nazareth. Nazareth is another one of those areas you don't want to go in by yourself. And so we didn't go to Nazareth this time, but that's where he grew up, in the household of Mary and Joseph. So if he's born in Bethlehem, not so far from Jerusalem, and he grew up in Nazareth, and we know that he went at the very least 3 times a year into Jerusalem for the festivals to bring an offering to God and to be there in the temple, then why is it that he sets up his ministry hub 40 miles away from home in a place called Capernaum? Capernaum. Hope's 42 visited Capernaum just weeks ago, and they don't even know how blessed they are, because I've never had Capernaum to myself. But essentially we did, because everybody thought war was coming. So they went home and we had it to ourselves. We're sitting in the synagogue, the original one where Jesus stood and taught and healed and cast out devils, is beneath the soil of that. They built on top of it. They know with certainty, with absolute certainty, that is the place of the synagogue in Capernaum, where Jesus spent a lot of time. And then when you're there, you walk only about 100 or 150 feet. And we did that. We walked the steps Jesus walked, and we end up at Peter's house. They know with absolute certainty it's Peter's house. And so, with absolute certainty. So we're standing in these places, and it makes you ask yourself, why is it that Jesus did not remain in his hometown to set up his ministry? Base of operations. Folks watched him grow up. It's what Cheers says. Everybody knows your name. Y'all don't even get that. We were in Boston, and my son made me go by and take a picture of the original Cheers that was there. Jesus didn't stay where he grew up. You get this. You know you're growing when the same people who once celebrated you now seek to contain you. It wasn't that Jesus didn't love his family. He did. It wasn't that he dishonored them or disrespected them. He didn't. But he needed to surround himself with those he could build something with. How many of you, some of you will raise your hand, some of you won't, how many of you have family that ridicule your faith at times? Jesus feels you. He gets you in the deep places. His own brothers scorned him and mocked him until they didn't. And then they gave their lives for him. But when he was living, they didn't know what to do with him. He feels you in the deep places. Sometimes, I tell you, the most faith-filled thing you can do, people of God, is just keep going in God. While loved ones reprimand your devotion to Jesus, they will need later the very thing they criticize in you now. They will need it. Hang on. Be the light. Don't diminish in any way. Don't dull. They are going to need you. So we're talking about Capernaum. We're talking about a day in the life near the very beginning of Jesus' ministry. Don't you love how this happens? When I'm studying in the mornings, I might be reading something out of the Gospels, and then I'm praying a psalm, and then I'm studying like the names of God, and then I'm in this book that I'm reading. So I'm like, I'm all over the board. But God has a way I'm reading something way over here that has nothing to do with anything about Jesus and the Gospels. And it told me yesterday that Capernaum actually is made up of 2 Hebrew words that means village of comfort. It's talk about Capernaum. Well, I just came out of Capernaum, and this has nothing, but God just weaves. The Spirit of God knows what you need when you need it, and he just brings it all together. In other words, so the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, the Apostle Paul says, steps into history as Jesus, and then he chooses to live in the village of comfort. That's our God. We're about to see that Jesus' most important and his most impactful ministry took place during the week. He's speaking to us tonight. It took place not in the synagogue, but during the week. He did his best and most ministry outside of God's house as an extension of God's house. He always went to the synagogue first when he went into a town. The Apostle Paul did too. Peter did too. They went to God's house first, but then all that they did was an extension of God's house during the week. This day in the life of Jesus that we're talking about tonight lays a foundation for understanding who Jesus calls you to be, why you are here, and what it looks like for you to represent Christ in the earth. We're representing him. We're representing him. Here's Jesus. Here we are, representing who he is. You know what? We have all boatloads of people that believe that the goal of God is to get people saved and get them to heaven. How many of you know if that was the goal of heaven, he would kill you as soon as he got you? Have you ever watched somebody backslide? Have you ever watched somebody come to the Lord and just gradually go off a cliff backward? If the goals, now I truly believe there have been moments that God will allow some things to happen because he knows what's about to happen and he wants your soul. But we are not called just to get saved for heaven. We're called to represent Jesus every day of our lives in every way that we live and breathe. God intends for our most impactful ministry to occur throughout the week in ordinary places. We come into God's house to bring him an offering of ourselves, our alabaster box tonight. God, let us do that every time we walk in. These encounters bring refreshing to our souls. And from that alignment, we become a bright light that expels darkness throughout the week. It's what we're called to do. So a day in the life of Jesus shows us wherever we go, these 3 things can happen. Broken lives get restored. We're talking about a day in the life. Another thing that can happen, our house becomes an extension of his house. We say that in this house all the time. I pray that for your houses. God, when the glory of the Lord is in this house, let them take it home to their house. Let every part of their household feel the impact of being in this house. And thirdly, our private prayers are supposed to produce our public success. Keep in mind at this point in Capernaum that this is not yet home to Jesus. Capernaum, he's there because it's the hometown of Peter and James and John and Andrew. And these 4 guys are not even his official disciples yet. He's just going with them up to Capernaum because if you'll remember, they were previously disciples of John the Baptist. And when John the Baptist sees Jesus coming to him at the Jordan, where hope stood, he said, I haven't seen him this way before. Oh my God. That's who you are. You're not Joseph's boy. You are the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. And John the Baptist knew his mission so well that in that moment, the disciples that had been following him, he said, the whole reason I've been here is to point toward him. Go with him. And so Peter and Andrew, James and John start following Jesus. They're not his disciples yet. Are you with me? So they're going home And Jesus is going with them, and they live in Capernaum because what do they do for a living? They're fishermen. And Capernaum is one of the cities on the shoreline of the Sea of Galilee. It's one of those towns, one of those villages. And so we see in Mark 1, the book of Mark is the memoirs of Peter. Remember? Peter's the one telling Mark what happened. So we learn so much about Peter's perspective by watching. That's why Mark is the shortest, and it just starts with the miracles. Like, we don't even hear how he got here, how Jesus got here. It's like bang, 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 bang. And it's not in order. Because Peter's ADHD. He can't even remember things in order. He's just spouting it. It's just running. Oh, yeah, and he did this too. And Mark, make sure you get this. And they're days and weeks and months apart. He's just spilling it out. And Mark is the first one written because Peter's going to be the first. And so Peter shows us through Mark 1 that Jesus comes home with him, enters Capernaum, and the first thing he does is go to the synagogue. And there's a demon-possessed man in the synagogue. And this demon is not disturbed in the least by the holy men. That's why there are a lot of devils in the church today. This demon is not disturbed by the holy man, the righteous men, the church leaders, the rabbis in there. But when Jesus walked in, he was terrorized. Jesus immediately cast the demon out, and people were utterly shocked at this level of authority and power. In fact, it says the news about Jesus spread like wildfire through every village in the entire region of the Galilee. That's a big region, because this demon, soon as Jesus walks into the synagogue, he said, "You're the Holy One. Stop. Is it not striking, I've said this before, that the demon knew Jesus' identity before the church folk did? Demons are comfortable in the presence of counterfeit holiness. But when Jesus walks into a room, demons tremble and take off. People of God, we are the living witness and example of Christ in the earth. When we walk into a room, demons should shake in their shoes. Our presence should petrify them, never pacify them. I'm not just talking about in the church. I'm talking about where you work. I'm talking about that devil trying to get all up in your home and your children. Don't pacify them. That devil should shake in his boots when the people of God walk in. We're not bolstering this counterfeit holiness. We know what to do with the devil because we represent Christ in the earth. We are walking, living witnesses of this Christ. We petrify devils and demons, not pacify them. So Jesus cast out this demon. Stuff like this has not been going on at church in Capernaum. So news is it's getting out. As Jesus leaves the synagogue, he gets word that Peter's mother-in-law is very sick. Now, remember, I just told you how close it is from the synagogue to Peter's house. It's just truly 100 feet, 150 feet. Hope's 42, Hope's 33. Yes, tell them. It is right there. And so Jesus is walking out of the synagogue door that we walked out. The synagogue that he was actually sitting is beneath, but they know that was the doorway. They know he walked out, and he gets word that Peter's mother-in-law is very sick and has a high fever. This story about Peter's mother-in-law and the beginning of Jesus' ministry there in Capernaum is so pivotal to the launch of his ministry that it's told in every gospel but John. All the guys tell this story. Luke says, then Jesus got up and left the synagogue after he cast out that demon, and he went to Simon Peter's house. Now, Simon Peter's mother-in-law was suffering from a high fever, and they asked him to help. Who's they? When you look at Mark, you realize it was Peter, James, and John. Now, a fever in that day, it could take you out. It was very serious. And besides all that, when a woman could not show hospitality and was not able to entertain people as they came. It's a very big deal in Jewish culture. Like so many of them, they just pack their houses every Shabbat. It's like Christmas Eve every week. They just have tons of people. They just have such a grace for hospitality. And so especially in that culture, when the woman is laid out sick and is not able to entertain, and Jesus is about to walk through the door, it brought great shame upon her. How many of you remember a time that you couldn't help yourself? That's where Peter's mother-in-law is right now. How many of you remember a time you could not help yourself? Maybe that's where you're parked right now. Consider this. Peter's mother-in-law was too weak to walk herself to the synagogue, even though it was just right there. She was too weak to push herself through the crowds to get to Jesus. She was lying in bed, helpless to get to Jesus, helpless to help herself. I just come by to tell somebody tonight, when we're too weak to get to Jesus, He knows how to come to us. He willingly walks toward our weakness. He walks toward our weakness. Some people are repelled by it. They don't want to be around weak people. They don't want to be around needy people. God sees, Jesus sees your need. He sees your weakness and He comes a-running. Maybe your weakness is not sickness. Maybe it's depression. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's burnout. I don't know what it is, but Jesus moves toward that in you. Where is the fever in your life? Where is that situation you cannot fix on your own? Wherever it is, He comes. This is the God we serve. Now, Jesus willingly walked toward her weakness because she couldn't help herself. But this is an important caveat. We've talked about it in this house before, and it's so important to get. What beckoned Jesus to come? We know that faith was operating somewhere because Jesus doesn't just respond to need, He responds to faith. If He responded to every need, how many of you know there would be no more need? He responds to faith. So what in there? She couldn't come to Him, but what was it that beckoned Him to come to her? It was literally her Peter, James, and John. You've heard Bishop say so many times before, you better know who your Peter, James, and John are. You better have somebody when you don't have the strength. Someone said to me last week, someone so devoted to the Lord, they were so sick, they said, will you pray for me? Someone beyond this house tonight said, I'm just so sick. I can't pray. Have you ever been there? I have been there. Trying to hold on to a strand of hope, and you can't help yourself. But if you've got a Peter, James, and John in your life that can stand in the gap and call on the name of the Lord, she knew she could call me. Does somebody know they can call you? Do you have somebody you can call? I'm telling you, you got some phenomenal link leaders in this house that'll stand in the gap for you. Don't underestimate the power of the gift God's given you in your link leaders. But what was it? It was her Peter, James, and John. When she couldn't help herself, she had those who knew how to stand in the gap and bring Jesus to her weakness. There were people that have called me or texted me today and said, I've had a fever. I can't be in the house tonight. And they wanted to be so responsible to tell us where they were. But you know what I've done in the prayer time? Is I've called out their names, Kinsley and Wayne Sankey. If Wayne and Donna's not sitting right there, something's wrong. His fever's broken. We're just praying that it continues to be broken. But they're asking us to, and there's a house of hope that knows how to stand in the gap and pray for them. They're not having to carry it on their own. No one walks far with God while walking alone. No one. No one. No one. If I didn't have you and I tried to do this all by myself, everything I've studied, everything I've known, everything I've experienced would not be enough to carry me. No one walks far in God alone while walking alone. This woman couldn't get up in that moment, but she belonged to a household of faith that could get up in that moment, and they did get up in that moment, and they brought Jesus to her. I'm telling you tonight, you belong to a household of faith that when you cannot get up, you have somebody that will stand in the gap and get you to Jesus and get Jesus to you. We need the household of faith. Hallelujah for the brothers and sisters of God. Hallelujah. It matters. So Jesus, imagine the scene. Listen, that woman was cooking, and when he's walking through that door, he can smell cooking that had to abruptly stop hours ago. That fever forced her to stop it all, pull those pots off the burner, and go lay down. And now that kitchen is a mess, and it's not the time she wants anybody coming to her house. When I was reading this, it reminded me when I went down with my left side, this is no joke, I keep my house pretty straightened. It's not always cleaned, but it's straightened. The day before I went down for months, I had the bright idea to clean our guest room. And when I tell you, I mean, I was going to do a deep dive clean. I brought everything out of the guest room and put it in the middle of the hallway, because after I finished speaking that Saturday, I was going to go back and put it all back. So my hallway was so packed, you could not walk through my hallway. And that is the day that I go down. And I had Christmas decorations still up above my cabinets, and now I never keep them up past January because I'm terrified that something's going to happen and I'm not going to get them down till May again. But this is what happens with Peter's mother-in-law. She's got all this going on. Her house is a wreck. It's a mess. It's the worst time. But listen, when you get this sick, when you get this much in need, you don't care. You'll get past all that for Jesus to come in. And so her fever is soaring, and she is fading fast toward death, and the family is circling around her and praying and crying out to God and whispering in despair, because this is the one that usually takes care of everybody else. And how many of you know when mama's down, it's all down. It's downhill. It is desperate. Dire death is looming as Jesus walks into that tiny space. When you see Peter's house, it is tiny. He walks into that small space where this contagious, transmittable disease is threatening and looming. COVID is in that room. And he didn't put on any big suit. He didn't stand at the other side. I'm just talking about we serve a God. The only barriers are the ones we put up. He's not afraid of your junk. He doesn't stand at a distance on the other side of the room. He doesn't cover his face. He walks right up to this woman's bedside with a contagious, transmittable disease. He takes her by the hand and he lifts her up. Luke tells us the great physician says, standing over her, Jesus rebuked the fever and it left her. And immediately, suddenly, she got up. And what does she do? Listen, 3 of the gospel guys are telling this story, and every one of them tell it a different way until they get to that part. And you know how guys miss the details sometimes? None of them forgot this meal. She was the Julia Child of Capernaum, I guess. I don't know, but the woman had it going on, and they all remembered it. But this blesses me so much. Jesus just didn't heal Peter's mother-in-law into wholeness. She got up immediately, but he restored her honor in that household. Listen, Jesus doesn't simply remove your problem. He restores your purpose. He restores your purpose. God's got a purpose and assignment on your life, and he raises you back up to walk in the grit and the grind and the glory of it. That's our God. So Jesus is he comes to town. He goes to the synagogue first. He casts out a devil. He walks across the way, goes and heals Peter's mother-in-law. It's Shabbat. It's the Sabbath. And so folks couldn't travel around a lot. There's a lot of rules about you don't walk this far, you rest. And so, but when sundown came, because remember they do it from sundown to sundown. When sundown came that night, news started spreading like wildfire about what Jesus had done to Peter's mother-in-law and about the demon he cast out in the synagogue. So folks start coming from everywhere, bringing the sick. And where did they bring the sick? Not to the synagogue. To Peter's house. They bring the sick to Peter's house. My God, Luke stresses that there were all kinds of diseases, and Jesus healed them all. As I was standing outside of Peter's house there, I was imagining that scene because I'll say something about it in just a second, but people are packed like sardines. Peter didn't ask for any of this, but he was open. He did not fix his yard that Saturday, and his wife cleaned that house for all this. He had no idea it was coming. It's quite demanding for it to be your house. People start packing into that tiny space like sardines, not the synagogue across the way, but in Peter's house. And they are lined up all the way down the street because there's no room to get in. And sick bodies are laid out on stretchers trying to wait for their turn to get in. And broken hearts, despairing people. There are even people as the worship service, the healing service is going on inside Peter's house. You can hear voices of desperate people calling out because they're just crying out to Jesus, thinking they're going to die before they get in. Can you imagine the scene? And yet it says Jesus healed them all. What Jesus started in God's house continued in Peter's house. Jesus longs for us to bring his authority and power to bear upon our living rooms and our kitchens, beyond our workplace and our daily rhythm. He wants to show up where you spend your days. He wants you to come in and get refueled and get recharged and then go out and be everything that we're watching him be. We see that he restored broken lives. Then he turns ordinary places into a holy space. He didn't wait to get back to church Sunday. And Jesus began ministering because they're all packing in like crazy. And the scriptures say that he started ministering at sunset when they all start coming. And he ministers well into the morning. Like it's way after midnight when they stop. I'm wondering who called that thing. Because you know people still kept coming. And imagine this. This is Peter's house. He's got to get up and go to work early the next morning. He's got a busy life. And yet Peter made himself available to God for whatever God needed. He said, what's mine is yours. That's what I started this service saying. What's your alabaster box? Whatever you have that you treasure, you know it came from God, don't you? Can we be a mature people that say it was never mine to start with? You gave it to me and I give it back to you. What's mine is yours. That's what Peter's doing right here. He's got responsibilities. And how many of you know when everybody comes into your house for a prayer service, they ain't going to leave it like they came. They're going to eat your food. It's going to be your grocery bill. Like, just think of all the things that were going on for Peter to open up that space. But he said, Jesus, what I have, you have. If it's mine, it's yours. Come in. Peter had now, and this is going way into the night. He's got to get up and go to work the next morning. He's got to get things put back together. Peter had no idea in that moment that his house was about to transform into the place that Jesus would use as his base of operations for the next 3.5 years. He had no idea. Peter made what he had available for anything Jesus needed while he's still a fisherman working a regular job. Y'all, this is long before. You want to know why Jesus used Peter to do these things? Because of this moment. This was long before Peter leaves his nets to follow him. This is long before Peter walks on the water. This is long before Peter says, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." This is long before he preaches to thousands and they are saved at Pentecost. He just said, "Jesus, what I have, I give to you. No matter the inconvenience, if you can use it, use it." This was the turning point for Peter. This was the beginning of something in Peter's life far greater than Peter could have imagined for himself. When Jesus officially calls Peter just a little bit later in Luke chapter 5, Peter's thinking, how can I resist? Like, you've transformed my whole life, my whole house, my whole home, my generations before me. How can I say no? And just from this moment, Peter doesn't have a clue what's building in this moment, what it's going to mean for him. But Peter's house becomes the place that God's Son rests his head on a nightly basis. Peter couldn't have known any of that. And it leaves me asking, what do we need to change so that people who walk in our home feel the presence of God each time they enter? What do we need to change? What do we need to alter so that folks who enter our ordinary spaces know it's an invitation to meet with Jesus? I'm talking about your workplace. I'm talking about your cubicle. Could it be Peter had no idea? He was just making room for anything Jesus needed in that moment. And Jesus was setting things in motion for Peter to live a life far more significant than Peter could have ever imagined for himself. Could it be that Jesus is already working in your life in this season to build something far greater than you imagined for yourself? The decisions you make toward him right now are moving things into place for you. Can I say conversely, the decisions you're making away from him right now are moving things away from you. So it leaves me saying, what are we giving Jesus to work with right now? Because Jesus is so eager. Are you hearing me? It's not just that he's willing. He is so eager to build something with your life that is far greater than anything you've dreamed for your life. What are we giving him to work with? Jesus shows us again that wherever we go, these things can happen. Broken lives can get restored because of the obedience of your life. Our house can become an extension of his house. Our workplace can become an extension of God's house. And then our private prayers can produce our public success. That prayer service went well into the night, past midnight, and still we see in Mark, this is Peter recalling it, Peter knows he was there, that Jesus got up to pray around 3:30 a.m. Now, if anybody had an excuse, he had been at the synagogue all day doing what he does. Then he goes to Peter's house and heals the mother-in-law. Then word gets out and people cram in by the boatloads and they have to cut it off after midnight. He's healing them all and he's exhausted in every way. Has he even gotten to eat? And here he is at 3:30 in the morning getting up to go pray. Before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went out to an isolated place to pray. Later, Simon and the others went out to find him. When they found him, they said, everybody's looking for you. Like, we've got stuff we need you for. Listen, there's always going to be more to do. There's always going to be more to do. I was reading Brother Savalas' post today about Shabbat and how we experienced it in Israel. It's a pride issue. And I say that from me, that I don't have it. I haven't mastered it. But when I think that I can't stop for a day. The world's going to fall apart. My world's going to fall apart. I truly don't trust in God. I trust in myself more than I trust in him. It's a pride issue. Jesus could have found more people to heal. There will always be more people that need more of you. But he knew everything that they were experiencing was because he put this first. The private time Jesus had with the Father was the source. It was the very source of his public thriving. It's how he could carry the constant weight of life. It's how he could carry the constant weight of ministry without breaking. It's how he could stay strong to carry others that were weak. It's how he could break the grip that was trying to break him. He could break the grip that was trying to break others. Have we built a prayer life that can carry the weight of our calling? I put you in there, but I just need you to know I'm feeling that in a deep way. It slapped me first. Have you built a prayer life that can carry the weight of your calling? If we're stumbling and we're stammering, we're struggling to find our steady footing, could it be that we're missing the recharging station? I know a couple of you have Teslas, but if you don't have a Tesla and you don't have to recharge it, you got to go to the gas station and recharge it. You got to do something. And if you don't, it doesn't matter how much your car costs, how fancy it is, how impressive it is. It doesn't matter how imminent it is and how demanding it is that you've got to be somewhere. If you do not recharge and refuel, you're not budging. You are stuck. You can talk about it, you can justify it, you're going nowhere. Yet how often do we live our lives loving Jesus, of course. I believe every one of us in this house love Jesus. Yet we're trying to live the overcoming life without recharging with the overcomer. And it's ridiculous to think that we can skirt recharging in our spiritual life. It's absurd. And yet we keep trying our hand at it. I'm guilty. Jesus didn't just show up in public power. He was built in private places. He moved from crowds to home, from ministry to moments without missing a beat. It was all the same to him. Are you seeing that? There was no separation between the secular and the sacred. It was all the same to him. He calls us for it all to be the same with us. What happened in private with the Father supercharged everything Jesus did in public. I just showed you a day in the life of Jesus. He started in God's house. That was first. That was priority. And from that place, he took the residuals of God's house and took it out into his week. And he restored broken people. And he made hostile places holy. And he knew how to step away, even though there was more work, there was more ministry to be done, and say, I've got to go recharge. I can't do anything you're wanting me to do if I don't do this first. He knew this. Just days later after this, we see as we're studying the scriptures that Jesus stayed up again all night praying. All night. And it was because that next morning he was officially going to call his disciples. And so he went to the Father. He wanted to make sure he got that so right. It was a big decision. And so he calls his disciples on the official capacity. And then the very next thing Jesus does, the very next thing, is he preaches that famous sermon, the longest sermon ever recorded of Jesus, the Sermon on the Mount. Hopes 42 went there. Hopes 33 went there. And we love to look at the Sermon on the Mount as the Beatitudes. It's so much more than the Beatitudes. Jesus stayed up all night knowing the next morning he's going to call his disciples. And then he said, come on, boys, come with me. And he preaches this sermon that was essentially a crash course on what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. Are you a disciple of Jesus? Everything he said to them is just as relevant to us. Jesus was trying to tell those disciples and all those masses of followers that thought they wanted to follow him that this is not a popularity contest. In fact, blessed are you when you're persecuted for my name's sake. This is not you winning the lottery. And then as he goes through the Beatitudes, the very next thing he talks about, because he's trying to make sure you understand what you're signing up for. Jesus said, this is what it looks like to live a day in the life as one of mine. He says, let me tell you why you're here. You're here to be salt that brings out the God flavors on this earth, disciples. If you lose your saltiness, how will people taste godliness? If you lose your saltiness, you've lost your usefulness. You've lost your purpose. You'll be thrown out and trampled on by others. He'll love you, but you'll be no good. You'll serve no good for him. And others will trample you under their feet. You'll lose all purpose if you're not doing this. He said, here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bright light. God is not a secret to be kept. Turn around and tell somebody, God is not a secret to be kept. He is not. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a lampstand, every one of you. God has put you on a lampstand somewhere. Somewhere. Now that I've put you there, on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Let your light shine everywhere you go. In the grocery store, when you're getting gas, in every place. So that others may see your devotion to me and may turn and praise your Father in heaven because of it. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to start opening up to me. This is a day in the life. It leaves me asking myself, if my ordinary daily rhythm doesn't invite others to know Jesus, I have missed his mandate upon my life entirely. Entirely. I have always loved Matthew 5. Be salt, be light, be city on a hill. I've believed it. I've believed all my life. I mean, my husband will tell you, I was an evangelist and an apologist when I was a teenager, didn't know what it was called. I invited all my friends to church, and my church was crazy. We were Pentecostal. We were like, you know how y'all feel sometimes when you're trying to invite somebody and you're thinking, I don't know how to introduce them and get them acclimated. I did it all the time. Our church was very Pentecostal. I knew that was my responsibility. That was why I was called to shine for him. And so I just brought people to church all the time. In fact, someone recently, one of those people that their family never went to church, and she wrote to me a few months ago. I kept it because it meant so much to me. Because even after she went to church with me, all that time, her family still never went to church. And I haven't seen her. I've only seen her on social media. I haven't seen her in her adult life, so I don't know if she goes. I don't know. I didn't know anything about her life. And she wrote to me and she said, thank you for inviting me to church. And you kept inviting me. And all those times, and you didn't think anything was getting in. But my family didn't go to church. And because I was there with you and I had that foundation, it has saved my life. And it has changed how I live my life and how I raise my children. And in that moment, I was about to combust. Because I didn't know. We don't even know the small things that we're doing and the big difference that it makes. But I've always known we're called to be light. We've got to reach them out there. Who else is going to do it? I've believed in Matthew 5, that portion, be salt, be light, be a city on a hill. I believe it so much that my whole doctoral dissertation, that's about 300 pages, isn't it, Sheila? 300 pages. The crux of the whole thing was Matthew 5. I had to live it, breathe it, eat it for a year and a half. But I believed that so much that it was my daily bread. But what I've come to understand as I've gotten older is because I have an apologist bent. I hate that word. An apologist just means that you defend the faith. But it sounds like we're apologizing for the faith. I don't know why they call it that. But defending the faith and being able to, I love when people have all kinds of bizarre ideas. I try not to raise my voice. I just ask questions and that sends them into orbit. But I love defending the faith. But because of that apologist bent in me to defend the faith, and I believe so much in Matthew 5, for the longest time, I believed that services, worship services, especially a Sunday service, needed to be structured to win the lost, to introduce people to Jesus. How many of you know the vast majority of churches you'll ever go in, that's exactly what they do? I'm not putting anybody under the bus. I praise God for the body of Christ, for the church. But can I tell you, I was wrong. I was so wrong. If we're going to spend every Sunday service trying to introduce people to Jesus, it means everybody is going to stay in the kiddie pool. Everybody. And we have churches all over with people that are living in the kiddie pool. They haven't grown up in God because there's no mature word, because they have to stay on the milk of the word to keep trying to get the numbers of those that are saved and going to heaven. But they're making no difference. This is what we got to understand, because I'm talking to a mature people. I'm not talking about any other church out there. I'm talking about, I know who we're called to be. I know who Jesus called his church to be. I'm talking to our church. Helping people find Jesus is our mandate throughout the week, not the church's. It is not the church's responsibility to introduce people to Jesus, to win the lost. Now, if they come in, we'll do that. But Jesus has put that mandate upon our lives. We're called to introduce folks to Jesus, then bring them to church so they can grow up in God. Jesus expects our relationships to be introduced to him through us, then disciple and develop them alongside the church. Does that make sense? But churches are having to introduce people every week to Jesus at the most elemental level because we're not living up to the mandate upon our lives. I'm preaching to myself first tonight, y'all. I'm asking myself, when's the last time someone encountered Jesus through me during the week? When's the last time I asked somebody if I could pray with them at work? I mean, not just say, I'll be praying for you. Pray with them. Pray with them. Right there. Do you know how many people say, I'll be praying for you? They don't mean it. I mean, I think they mean it in that moment, but they don't. And the power of just taking a moment to pray for somebody. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be loud. Just sharing your faith and sharing your hope. I'm not talking about just this hope. Hope. When's the last time people walked into my office or my home wanting to know more about this Jesus I serve? I'm asking myself. Sometimes, Ryan, I'm at the gym and I want to go into the sauna, but people are in there, and when they're in the sauna, I'm thinking, I don't want to go in there. I just want to go home and get on with it. And then sometimes when I see who's in there, I know I got to go. And I know if I go, God's going to give me the opportunity to say something. And I just pray before I walk in, God, help me see the opening. Help me know what to say. I never want to steamroll anybody, and I never want to be so hesitant that I miss it. I've watched through the years, I've watched this so often when someone in the church, maybe it's a parent that has adult children that are losing their way, or maybe it's a spouse that has their spouse that doesn't believe, and they make it difficult. And it's so easy, especially if at one time they did believe and you're watching them disintegrate and self-destruct. It's so depressing. It's so disappointing. It's so disillusioning. But I've watched it time and again. I've watched it go both ways. I've watched those that become so disappointed and so disillusioned that instead of being the strong tower of faith, instead of being that pillar, that strong pillar, instead of continuing to live loud your faith, they start quieting it down. And they start fading in their faith. And they become less devoted to God and less devoted to church, and they're not in the middle of it anymore. And that is the moment, people of God, you've got to be the bright light. That's the moment you've got to be a lighthouse so they can find their way home. That's the moment you've got to be a city on a hill that shines even brighter. And you've got to be salt that flavors the conversations with more of Him. We've got to be that example of strong faith. In those moments when those you love are fading, that's when you've got to be immovable, steadfast, always abounding in the things of God. When you stay home, it's saying to them, I guess it really isn't that important. If they can move you, you just made their case. If we can't stand in the gap and declare He is Lord with our whole lives, though none go with us, then none will ever go with us. People of God, He's called us to spend our days restoring the broken, making our ordinary spaces holy, and experiencing public success because of the time that we've spent privately with Him. This is a day in the life. Big deal. Big deal if I get to heaven and my witness touches no one I love. Big deal if I love God, but live it so silent that nobody has changed around me. Big deal if I come to church, but I don't carry Him with me from this place. We've got to have the courage to live loud. Everyone out there is loud. And they're deceived. And the ones carrying the life-saving equipment are the ones that are silent. They're not called to be loud, and yet they are. We are called to live loud, and we're the quiet ones. God is waiting. Can I just tell you, God is so eager. He's so eager to bring this last great awakening. This generation needs it so much. But he's trying to get his church in position. And I'm begging you with me tonight to hear the word of the Lord and start examining, what am I doing with my days? What are the opportunities I'm missing? If we're not looking for them, we won't see them. We've got to see them so we can connect the dots. My mama was so masterful at that. No matter how hell could be breaking loose, and my mama could find a way to tell you about the goodness and faithfulness of God in the middle of it, because she was looking for it. We've got to look for ways to make his name known, not to be a spectacle. It ain't about us. It's about him. And if we're doing it right, they're going to want what you have, because we live in a world that longs for peace like no other time in history. And we know the peace speaker. We know him by name. And we live in that peace as we keep our minds stayed on him. This is the word of the Lord for our lives this night. Lord, I thank you that you trust us with so much. You ask us to trust you, and you're so trustworthy, and still we find ourselves at times struggling to trust you when you've never let us down. It's crazy not to trust you, and yet when I look at myself, it's crazy that you trust me. I've missed it so many times. But Lord, I'm believing this night as I talk to this mature people, this people that love you, this people, I know them, they want to get it right. We want to get it right. I pray that you would just quicken our hearts to see what we have not been able to see, and hear what we have not been able to hear, and discern situations by God, to see the opening and have the courage to step in. It doesn't have to be loud. It's not about us. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to give you glory and help people find an anchor, find a place to hold on, and believe that God is, God can, God does, and God will. We are that people. You can trust us, God. We leave this place with our eyes wide open. In Jesus' name, amen. Bless you. Choir rehearsal in just a